We begin the news by telling you that Nigeria's economy demonstrated resilience in the fourth quarter of 2024, with its annual gross domestic product rate growing by 3.84%. Now, that's according to the National Bureau of Statistics. This growth rate surpasses the 3.46% recorded in both the third quarter of 2024 and the fourth quarter of 2023. Now, the services sector was the primary driver of this growth, boasting an impressive 5.37% growth rate and contributing a substantial 57.38% in the aggregate GDP. On the other hand, the oil sector experienced a more modest growth rate of 1.48%, a significant decline from the 12.11% recorded in the fourth quarter of 2023. Now, in terms of nominal GDP, Nigeria's total value of goods produced reached 78.37 trillion naira in the fourth quarter of 2024. Let's talk politics, where the All Progressives Congress APC National Caucus has reaffirmed its support for President Bola Tinubu's administration, emphasizing party unity and strength. Governor Hope Uzodinma stated that the APC remains focused and fully backs the government. He dismissed claims of one-man rule, highlighting the party's diverse representation across Nigeria's 6 geopolitical zones. Now, the caucus meeting, presided over by President Tinubu at the State House in Abuja, precedes the National Executive Council meeting. Meanwhile, Uzodinma credited Tinubu's leadership for improved revenue generation and infrastructure development. The meeting also had Vice President Kashim Shettima and Senate President Godswill Akpabio in attendance. Let's also tell you that 2 days of deliberations, after 2 days of deliberations, the Senate has concluded its public hearing on the tax reform bills, paving the way for further legislative action on Nigeria's evolving tax administration framework. The hearing, led by the Senate Committee on Finance, provided a platform for government officials, industry experts, and civil society organizations to make submissions on key aspects of the proposed tax reforms. Senate Committee Chairman Senator Sani Musa emphasized the importance of the tax reforms in improving revenue generation, strengthening fiscal policies, and enhancing economic growth. Among the bills reviewed were the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Fund Bill, the Nigerian Revenue Services Bill, the Nigerian Tax Administration Bill, and the Nigerian Tax Bills.
Recommended institutional autonomy, we recommended legal clarity, we recommended specialized functions, we recommended the international obligations and custom-specific dispute resolution, and we said that if these reforms were to be sustained and all the objectives to be realized, we recommended a phased implementation approach. We ended up with 2 simple prayers. Number 1, that customs should be allowed to retain its mandate under the provisions of the NCS Act 2023. And number 2, the final versions of these bills do not contravene the NCS Act 2023, thereby preserving the core statutory functions and operational efficiency of the NCS.
The offending paragraphs that NESA finds very worrisome are sections 198, 2, and 3 of the tax reform bill, together with section 57. Additionally, under the second schedule, clauses 2.3, 2.4, and 2.5 are the main provisions that we find offensive. What is worrisome about these provisions is that by virtue of section 198, the benefits that accrue under the NESA section 8 and section 18 have been amended and repealed. The implication is that those non-tax avenues that were available to the investors have been completely removed. by this proposed amendment. What that means, in essence, is that those incentives will no longer be available. Mr. Chairman, sir, it is also important to note that this Section 1 does not have any transitional period. Even the Constitution, 1999 that we operate, has a transitional period in Section 315 and 317. The KAMA, this August Assembly also passed, has a transitional period. Why would the Trans Reform Bill not have a transitional period? Why completely abrogate those benefits that are accrued under an existing?
Nigeria's Senate has referred Kogi Central Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan to its Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions following last week's heated exchange with the Senate President over discontent relating to the seating arrangement in the Senate chamber. Now, the committee, chaired by Neda Imaseun, has been given 2 weeks to investigate the matter and submit its findings. News Central's National Assembly correspondent reports on the latest developments.
So nice to speak from there. That is the order of the Senate.
Sir, Order 10 on privileges.
The controversy began on February 20th when lawmaker Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan resisted a Senate directive to change her seat following the defection of 2 senators to the All Progressives Congress. During plenary on Tuesday, Senate spokesperson Yemi Adaramodu raised a motion under Orders 1B and 10, condemning the conduct of Akpoti-Uduaghan, saying the incident had sparked widespread and unnecessary media debates, forcing him to put in extra work to repair the public perception of the 10th Senate.
I reiterated that the Senate is not for skit making, it's not for content creation.
Some lawmakers called for disciplinary measures, while others are advocating for necessary action to de-escalate tensions.
Where there is no law, there's no sin. But we have laws. Then it means that any contravention of that law is a sin. And where there is sin, there must be penalty.
The Senate is an institution, and that institution needs to have at its dashboard integrity as number 1.
Mr. President, we're sorry for what happened because the Senate has been in the public domain for discussions that are definitely not for what we were elected here.
In his ruling, the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, blamed Akpoti-Uduaghan's unfamiliarity with Senate procedures for the altercation, urging lawmakers to maintain decorum during proceedings.
If you want to be a senator, please learn that this is our guiding principle. All the things that they are saying outside, here, this book here gives the power to the Senate President to even suspend a senator for at least 14 legislative days.
With the matter now in the hands of the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions, the chamber awaits its report, which is expected to determine the next course of action. In Abuja for News Central, I'm Sagir Ibrahim.
Meanwhile, Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan has filed a 100 billion naira defamation lawsuit against Senate President Godswill Akpabio, alleging that he made damaging and defamatory statements against her. Now, the lawsuit, which was filed at the Federal Capital Territory High Court, also names the Federal Republic of Nigeria and Akpabio's aide Mfom Patrick as defendants. According to the lawsuit, the controversy began when Akpoti-Uduaghan's Senate seat was reassigned following a reshuffle. She resisted the move, leading to a confrontation with the Senate President. Akpoti Uduaghan's lawyer, Victor Giwa, is seeking a court order to restrain the defendants from making further defamatory statements against her. Additionally, she is demanding 100 billion naira in general damages and 300 million naira in litigation costs. Staying with legislative matters, the growing demand for inclusive policies and fair representation has sparked momentum for the adoption of diversity, equity and inclusion bill across Nigeria's state legislatures. This proposed legislation seeks to address systemic inequalities and empower marginalized groups, including women, persons with disabilities, and economically disadvantaged citizens. News Central's Oluwakemi Alimi was at the co-creation workshop where stakeholders deliberated on this bill and how best to ensure it gets passed into law in the various state houses of assembly. Her report.
Lawmakers from across Nigeria have convened to strategize on the passage of the DEI bill in their respective state houses of assembly. At the co-creation workshop organized by the Women Advocates Research and Documentation Center in collaboration with civil society organizations, stakeholders emphasized the urgent need for legislative action.
Things we want to achieve today is the commitment by the states to go back and ensure that they fast track the passage of the bill in their different states.
Originally proposed by Speaker of the Bauchi State House of Assembly and former chairman of the Conference of Speakers, Abubakar Sulaiman, the bill aims to dismantle systemic barriers and ensure equal opportunities for all Nigerians, irrespective of gender, disability, economic status, or ethnicity.
As you know, there are some certain categories of people in the country that are being marginalized, and like women, children, and the disability. Those are disabled people. So with this bill, if it's successfully passed in the various state house assembly, definitely it will address some of these issues that we are having in the country.
Speaking at the event, Lagos State House of Assembly Speaker Mojisola Miranda stressed the importance of transformative legislation. She highlighted Nigeria's 125th ranking of 146 countries in gender parity, reinforcing the urgent need for policies that close inequality gaps and drive social justice reforms.
We are not merely discussing the framework of a legal document. We are shaping a transformative instrument that will serve as a moral compass for our society. This bill embodies the spirit of fairness, justice, and inclusiveness, ensuring that every Nigerian, irrespective of gender, economic status, or physical ability, has the opportunity to thrive.
A core objective of the bill is the protection and empowerment of vulnerable groups, particularly women and persons with disabilities. Stakeholders at the workshop underscored the crucial role of collaboration between lawmakers and civil society organizations to ensure the successful passage and implementation of the bill nationwide. In Lagos, for News Central, I am Oluwakemi Alimi.
The Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission, FCCPC, has summoned MultiChoice Nigeria over its planned subscription price hike for DSTV and GoTV set to take effect on March 1st, 2025. Our subscribers have recently received notifications of increased rates, with the DSTV premium package rising from 37,000 naira to 44,500 naira and Compact Plus increasing from 25,000 naira to 30,000 naira. In response, FCCPC has directed MultiChoice Nigeria CEO to appear for an investigative hearing on February 27th. The Commission has expressed concerns over recurrent price hikes, potential market dominance abuse, and anti-competitive practices. FCCPC has warned that regulatory penalties may be imposed if MultiChoice fails to provide satisfactory explanations. It has reaffirmed its commitment to protecting Nigerian consumers and ensuring fair competition in the pay TV industry. The Apex Socio-Political Yoruba organization, Afenifere, has named a new leader following the passing of Pa Ayo Adebanjo. He is Oba Oladipo Olaitan. Oba Olaitan will serve in acting capacity until after the burial of the late Pa Ayo Adebanjo, when he will resume office as substantive leader. The disclosure was made in a communique signed by the organization's Secretary General, Shola Abiseni, and National Publicity Secretary, Justice Faloye, and issued after their monthly general meeting on Tuesday. Now, the new appointment followed the approval of the recommendations of the National Caucus of the group. Oba Olaitan was called to the Nigerian bar in 1971, a political advisor to Governor Lateef Jakonde and member of the Lagos State Executive Council from 1979 to 1983. Elected member House of Representatives and leader of AD in the House 1999 to 2003. He has been a member of Afenifere for over 45 years, serving in various capacities, including the National Financial Secretary under the leadership of Chief Ruben Fashoranti and Deputy Leader under Chief Ayo Adebanjo. And now to security matters. The Forum of National Youth Leaders of all political parties in Nigeria has called for the immediate release of Eniola Ojajuni, National President of Afenifere Youths, who is reportedly being held by kidnappers. Now, in a statement by its co-chairman, Eze Onyebuchi Chukwu and Chinaza Ike on Tuesday, the group expressed concern over the situation. The forum condemned the abduction, stating that it was deeply disturbed by the distressing video of Ojajuni pleading for help. It urged President Bola Tinubu, Governor Lucky Aiyedatiwa, SSS boss and Inspector General of Police and all Nigerians to take action to secure the youth leader's release. The group also appealed to the bandits to spare Ojajuni's life. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll tell you that police confirms arrest of suspects over killing of woman and twins in Abia State. Details of this and more after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. The federal government of Nigeria and the International Criminal Police Organization have pledged to work together, particularly in the area of intelligence information sharing. Now, this commitment was made during a training workshop in Abuja aimed at enhancing the capacity of police personnel to effectively tackle transnational crime. Our correspondent, Idong Joseph, has more on this report.
These are all recovered.
Nigeria's security threats are no longer confined within its borders. Criminal networks now operate across borders, making it difficult for local security agencies to respond effectively. To bridge this gap, the Ministry of Police Affairs, in collaboration with Interpol, commenced this workshop to build the capacity of law enforcement agencies with adequate and effective security tools to help combat crime more effectively.
I am convinced that by adopting methodologies akin to those employed by Interpol, we can significantly mitigate our internal security challenges. In light of the myriad security threats facing our nation today, it is imperative that we embrace international standards to safeguard life, properties, and infrastructure, thereby fostering economic development and stability.
While intelligence sharing remains a major challenge among security agencies, experts say Interpol's intelligence tools can boost coordination and improve crime-fighting efforts.
The Ministry of Police Affairs and Nigerian Police Force are organizing this workshop to sensitize participants on how to coordinate and share crimes intelligence, support investigation to extradite fugitives and wanted for prosecution.
It shows the commitment of the organizers to bring out the best of solutions and tools to better manage our increasingly complex security environment. I believe that at the end of this workshop, the purpose, which is to sensitize participants on Interpol tools in promoting internal security, will have been achieved.
Our partnership with Interpol is a testament to this, allowing us to leverage international resources, expertise, and best practices.
Security experts here say that effective intelligence sharing is key to fighting crime and nipping it in the bud. In Abuja for News Central, Idunk Joseph.
Moving away from that, Anambra State governorship aspirant Obiora Okonkwo has urged the leadership and members of the All Progressives Congress to prioritize merit over zoning in the selection of the party's flag bearer for the upcoming party primaries in the state. Okonkwo, while submitting his nomination form at the APC headquarters in Nigeria's capital Abuja, urged the party to focus on competence rather than zoning, saying that this will enhance the party's chances of success in the upcoming Anambra State off-cycle governorship election.
An issue of zoning in Anambra is fraudulent. I do not believe that we should ignore competence, capability in the altar of zoning. Anambra have great men and women who are capable of competing on equal basis to win the governorship or the appointments to realize the potentials of Anambra State. Soludo claimed he worked for Mr. President during the election. He did not. He worked for himself. We have it in a good authority that the letter written by the presidential campaign of APC to him to even give reception, a courtesy visit to Mr. President during his campaign to Anambra. That letter was handed over from our...
1 week after a 25-year-old young man from Ndagbo Isiama Afara in Umuahia North local government area of Abia State allegedly murdered his elder sister with her twin children, reactions have been trailing the sad incident. Now, while the people believe it is strange to have such murder happening often in recent times, the family are devastated by the tragedy that has befallen them. News Central's Chinwe Ugele has been tracking the development.
This peaceful community of Ndamo Isiama Afara was unsettled last Tuesday with the news of the murder of 3 family members the same day. Pa James Swobani is a 79-year-old father of the suspect and victim, as well as grandfather to the slain twins. The only eyewitness to this heinous act is absent to share what he witnessed. Alone in the house when we called, Pa James picks up courage to narrate the unfortunate incident as he knows.
This boy, Nonga, or no, la, was I not a toilet? Because often serve the medication I know. The toilet was not one inside la nearer. Not toilet, and I corner as a bamboo, if one ambo was 1 year, ladron, up there, Caburiega, Limola, maybe, Bukashi and Ogi, if we shepo. It was a 2 men on me.
The family have been thrown into a state of confusion, battling with the loss of a child and grandchildren, and what is likely to become the fate of Igwebike, their son.
I don't know, Oblizina, about it. I don't know, because of Moja and the Omketia if we can. Come on over that, maybe
the Abia State Police Command confirms having the suspect in custody and says investigations have been launched to ascertain his mental state.
We will do our discrete investigation. And part of our investigation procedures requires that we get a medical report from a medical practitioner in that field to tell us if the suspect is mentally deranged or not. And of course, the final of everything, the conclusion is not the police. Police is not the final say, the court is.
There are insinuations that it may have some underlying connotations.
Because killing your sister without a conscience, without reasoning, is under influence of evil spirits. Somebody has projected it spiritually to defy that family, to close that family. Because definitely the guy will be in the custody.
A psychologist, Rosemary Nwogu, says there are factors that can push someone to commit murder.
No, some are drug influence, some are P group influence. P disorder, P group disorder. Like now, I'm not a thief. I have gone to university, and my friends in the schools, they have those issues, you understand? And they convinced me to join.
Whatever the findings of the police may be, the family of Pa James Nwubani will for a long time grieve for this multiple tragedy. In Omahia for News Central, Chinwe Ukele.
Thank you for staying with us. Now, the First Lady of Nigeria, Oluremi Tinubu, has donated kits and critical equipment to 10,000 nurses and midwives in Kaduna State in a bid to support primary health care at the grassroots and help combat HIV/AIDS and maternal mortality. Now, this was made known in Kaduna as the First Lady visited the state Governor Obasani prior to the flag-off of the Free to Shine campaign in the northwest geopolitical zone of the country, which is an advocacy initiative of the African Union, the Organization of African First Ladies for Development, and several other development partners. Amadin Uyi reports. We'll come back with the package later. Now, moving on, the news continues in South Africa, where police in Zimbabwe have arrested veteran journalist Blessed Mlanga, charging him with 2 counts of contravening Section 164 of the Criminal Law Codification and Reform Act for allegedly transmitting data messages inciting violence. The charges related to Mlanga granting an interview to war veteran Blessed Geza, a staunch opponent of Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa 2030 agenda, war veteran and ZANU-PF Central Committee member. Geza was issued press briefings and interviews through HSTV anchored by Mlanga, calling for President Emmerson Mnangagwa to resign from office immediately, adding that failure to which the people of Zimbabwe will use the constitution to assist him to step down. On Tuesday, Mlanga appeared at Harare court and was denied bail. He remains in custody. Now joining us to discuss this further is Nigel Nyamutumbu. He's the Media Alliance of Zimbabwe coordinator. Thank you so much for joining us, Nigel.
Sure, it's a pleasure being here.
All right, Nigel, can you provide more details about the circumstances surrounding Blessed Mlanga's arrest? What led to his detainment following his interview with war veterans?
Yes, for starters, just to make a slight correction, Mlanga was not denied bail as it were. The magistrate presiding over the case said was that he will come with his determination on Thursday, that is the 27th of February. In terms of the context leading to Mlanga's arrest, it is informed really by discohesion within the ruling party and the ruling elite, in particular, insofar as the fundamental question in respect of the extension of President Mnangagwa's tenure as president, which is supposed to end in 2028. with one faction within the ruling party and ruling elite in support of that particular motion, yet on the other, there is some contestations and disputes around the same. This is something that has been playing out in the public domain, and HSTV, and in particular, Blessed Mhlanga, has been providing the platforms for Zimbabwean citizens to engage, to discuss the issue, which, however, has resultantly led him to being arrested on allegations of inciting violence. What is evident and what is clear is Mhlanga did not himself make the remarks that the state are alleging in his arrest. It is an interviewee, which then brings the question on whether it is actually Mhlanga being the one confronted, or it is the platform and profession and act of journalism.
Well, about Mhlanga not being the one to, who actually made that particular statement. In your opinion, what does his arrest, even though he's innocent of that particular accusation, what does his arrest signal about the state of press freedom in Zimbabwe?
It is indeed an unfortunate incident, and it reflects a regression insofar as the incremental gains that we had made as advocates for free expression, as defenders of media freedom. It is worth noting that through the various engagements and interventions that we have made, the media law reform process, a police media action plan, and basic conversations around the creation of a conducive environment for journalism to thrive. All these have now been deterred by the current move by the state to step in and, in all intents and purposes, shoot the messenger who is merely carrying a platform for the diversity of voices to be heard, who is merely being a purveyor of information, a purveyor of opinions that people hold, a purveyor of freedom of expression, which is expressly guaranteed in the Constitution. So it is indeed an unfortunate incident, and one would hope that at some point, sooner rather than later, the state drops the charges against Mhlanga, and perhaps even delve into a deeper conversation around amending or repealing that particular provision, which in all intents and purposes presents a chilling effect on the practice of journalism. Because by criminalizing transmission and broadcasting of information, you essentially
Hello, Nigel. All right. Sadly, we've lost Nigel, but thank you so much for your time and for speaking to us on this. Now we move to North Africa, where a Tunisian court has sentenced 8 defendants to death for the 2013 assassination of opposition leader Mohamed Brahmi. The defendants were found guilty of charges including attempting to change the state's nature and inciting armed conflict. 3 of them received additional death sentences for deliberate participation in premeditated murder. Brahmi, a leftist politician, was shot 14 times outside his home in front of his family. His assassination shocked the nation and came just months after another prominent leftist figure, Chokri Belaid, was killed. Jihadists affiliated with the Islamic State claimed responsibility for both assassinations. Tunisia still hands down death sentences but a de facto moratorium since 1991 means they're effectively commuted to life terms. Moroccan authorities have foiled a series of planned attacks by a 12-member terror cell loyal to Islamic State in the Sahel. The group had been targeting both national and international sites within Morocco. The operation highlights the growing jihadist threats in the Sahel, where IS and Al-Qaeda affiliates continue to expand their reach across Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. The suspects, aged 18 to 40, were arrested in 9 cities and are believed to have been taking orders from an Islamic State commander based in Libya. Authorities say the group, known as the Lions of the Caliphate in the Maghrib al-Aqsa, was radicalized online and had been plotting remote-controlled bomb attacks. The head of Morocco's Central Bureau of Judicial Investigations, Haboub Cherkoui, confirmed that the group posed an imminent threat. In other news from around the world, U.S. President Donald Trump has expressed interest in purchasing minerals from Russia, stating that he'd like to buy minerals on Russian land too during a press conference at the White House. This comment comes as the U.S. and Ukraine are close to signing an agreement on Ukrainian rare earth minerals. Trump also mentioned that Ukraine faces a choice: either conclude a deal on minerals or face problems. The president's remarks highlight the complex dynamics of global mineral trade and the strategic interests of major world powers. Hong Kong's finance chief, Paul Chan, has announced plans to cut public spending and restore fiscal balance by mid-2027. The city has faced significant deficits exceeding $20 billion in 3 of the past 4 years and is under pressure to balance its books. To achieve this, the government will contain spending while minimizing the impact on public services and livelihoods. Chan also unveiled growth plans, including the establishment of a Hong Kong AI Research and Development Institute with a budget of $1 billion. The economy is expected to grow between 2 to 3% this year, with the International Monetary Fund noting a gradual recovery after a period of shock. In business, this Monday, the organized private sector urged a review of proposed tax reforms in Nigeria, particularly the VAT increase from 7.5% to 15% by 2030. Concerns were raised about the potential negative impact on investment and the removal of tax provisions for free trade zones during the Senate committee hearing. Kenneth Irukime, partner, tax reporting and strategy, PricewaterhouseCoopers, shared his insights regarding the pushback seen so far, particularly the rejection of the incremental increase in the value-added tax on Business Edge.
The way the bills have been drafted, it means that those laws will essentially be retired in that context, because the bill would have an overriding impact on those previous acts. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just in terms of, what exactly is our economic strategy with regards to incentivizing companies. Now, you must remember that every country has an incentive strategy. And this is not just the free zones. The impact also extends to what we call pioneer industries. So the pioneer status, where you get 0% tax for 3 to 5 years. If we are clear on the sectors and industries we want to incentivize, for example, we can then be clear on the sort of tax exemption we want to grant to those industries. But what has happened is a partial exemption based on the bills. So you get a partial exemption, you get an exemption, but anything that gives you a benefit below 15% of profit will then be taxed. We have to compare what we're doing with other jurisdictions and pay particular focus on what is our competitive advantage or the sort of sectors we want to incentivize. And I think, at this point.
That's all at this hour. But before we go, here's another look at some of our major stories. You heard that Nigeria's annual gross domestic product has grown by 3.84% in fourth quarter 2024. You also heard that APC National Caucus has thrown its weight behind President Tinubu's administration. Finally, we told you that Zimbabwean journalist Blessed Mlanga has been arrested over alleged incitement of violence. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.